can't mess with me, Zoom. All right, sorry for that small delay, folks, but we are ready to get started. So as I mentioned, we have a fluid agenda, and I'm going to really let Elise and Nicole drive this this kickoff part to really level set on what the next 2 years look like. And then we'll bring Lee in after that. And of course, questions, drop them in chat or unmute and ask them, and we'll go from there.
Why don't you start with an overview and I can talk
Perfect.
about that.
Great. Well, let me share my screen here quickly so everyone can see. A second, I'll make this as big as I can. All right. I know that's really small still for people in person, but I can also send the PDF of this out afterward. So today I just wanted to provide an overview of upcoming work on 41, which I'm sure you all have heard of at this point. So beginning this year, they're going to begin construction on Highway 61, which this is the overall design that you see on the screen here. Pointing north is to the right of the screen. Here's the curling center, City Square Park. We're in City Hall over here. So this year they're going to be completing construction on Highway 61, and then next year will be work on Highway 41. So just a brief description of what's being done. They are replacing the underground utilities throughout the whole project area. So that's those big pipes for water and sewer. So that will be a big part of why this work will take a long time, because they have to dig pretty deep to do that. In addition, they're also converting Highway 41 from a 2-lane in each direction to 1 lane in each direction, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive at first, but they're adding turn lanes at each of the intersections. So essentially, there's no more getting stuck behind people turning left and missing the lights and trying to weave. So that is really going to improve the traffic flow through the downtown area. In addition, you can see, and once again, it's kind of small if you're in person, but in addition to this work, they're also doing a lot of streetscape elements. So wayfinding signage, you can see incorporating a lot of that Chaska brick, plantings, and just decorative plantings in the median. So it's really going to make downtown very inviting when you're driving through and make you want to stop and stay and visit. So keep this in mind as we go through the staging, because there is, like Jen said at the beginning, a good end product here that we're waiting for. So just a brief overview of construction here. So there's 2 main stages. Like I mentioned earlier, the first stage begins this year in that dark blue area on 61. Now north is pointing straight up. See if I can zoom in. So beginning this year, 61 will be under construction starting in July. And we say it goes through November, but we're hoping it will be done sooner than that. We just overestimate just in case with weather. But as you can see, 61 will be closed from 41 to Walnut Street. So that small segment will be closed. And then the dashed line you see here, there will be work being done in that area, but it will be done half at a time. So you can still drive in, turn on Walnut Street to go south or north. So this intersection will still be open, as well as the 41 intersection. So if you're looking coming from Carver to go north on 41 or south toward the bridge, that will be open to do.
Question, do we know at this stage where people will be detoured when 61 is closed? Will they be sent north or south to get where they're going, to get through?
For like local traffic or overall?
Well, anybody on 61, whether they're local or not, if they want to keep going east or west, do they go north or do they go south to do that?
So the, oops. So the regional detour, which it's, once again, I'm sorry that this is small in person, but regionally it will be detoured if you're coming to go north on 41 and then to 10 Engler. So that will be the regional detour setup. They are still working through local signage for business access and such. So there will be other signs for that as well. But as far as regional traffic, that will be the main detour. So I can zoom out here since we're talking about this year. So this is a closer view of construction happening this year, you can see that area that was closed that I mentioned. And these blue arrows indicate the turning movements and main crossings that people will be utilizing during this time. And in addition to the work on 61, they're also going to be constructing the new parking lot, Paseos, which, let's see, right here. So in addition to the work on 61, we are also adding in new parking lots. And as you can see, there's a lot of decorative elements put throughout here as well with archways, plantings, obviously the parking, which is essential because parking will be going away along 41, but the parking stalls in these 3 lots are going to make up for all of that parking that was lost, if you will, with even more parking in addition to 41. So this is another cool thing that will be completed this year. There isn't really a time frame as far as which parking lot will be constructed first. We need to wait until we get that contractor on board before we know that, but these will also be completed this year.
In the Paseo concept a little bit more and
Yeah.
what it,
Yep. So in the downtown, if you're familiar, City Square Park is here. In between the blocks, there's kind of some existing alleyways that are there today. And the design team took advantage of that space to make it a really cool walkway that you can see here. There's the brick elements and a lot of plantings that makes it very inviting to not only, you know, drive in and park, but also to walk. And it serves as a connection point between a lot of key businesses and the park. And at the bottom here, you can even see there is an opportunity for hanging lights and seating and a lot of cool elements that businesses could also utilize for small events or anything else that they would see fit to put there. So it really is going to help liven up the downtown and make those alleyways a place to be and serve as a connection point through different blocks.
you'll be able to walk in the Paseo from your store to Dan's store. That's how complete it'll make.
Any other questions on 61? I know we were kind of jumping around a little bit here. So this is for, once again, this year's construction is happening and that will start in July. The contractor is not on board yet. We just let the project or advertise for bids from the contractor, and we should be knowing the bids and selecting someone within the next few weeks or so. So stay tuned for more information on that. Okay. So then the next stage will take place next year in 2023. And this is the big one. So beginning in April of next year, 41 will be closed from just south of Walnut Street by Fireman's Lake through the Minnesota River Bridge. So obviously that's hugely impactful. It's a huge access point in and out of downtown. So that will begin in April. In June, this top portion here at the 4161 intersection will reopen so that folks can, utilize 61 east-west, go north, and more importantly, go south to these side streets to Pine, to Walnut to access businesses. So I'm going to zoom here quickly to the detailed map of this. So once again, these blue arrows are indicating the key crossings for local access, because even though 41 is closed, we really want to make sure that people are still coming downtown to businesses and to events, because we know that people are the source of your livelihood. So as you can see here, we have a lot of access points to go along Pine and Walnut. Those will be two key parallel routes. And then 4th Street and 2nd Street and 41, the contract states that 2 of 3 of these crossings have to be open at all times. So you can always traverse either to the east or west side of downtown through one of these access points during construction. In addition, they're also going to keep the sidewalk, like storefront access, open as long as possible. So even though the road will be, being worked on, the sidewalks and such are gonna stay as long as it can until they have to start building those sidewalks. At this time, parking will be complete. Those beautiful paseos will be there. So there's going to be a good designated spot for people to come park, even though, because 41 will be under construction, obviously, so that people can still come in, park, and visit your businesses. And I don't know if this one's a little hard to see too. People coming south on 41 can also utilize Walnut to get south to businesses as well. And the detour is kind of wonky. So this obviously isn't a regular detour, but there's so many different ways that people come to get to Chaska. And we're going to have a lot of different signs out, to catch people coming from Jonathan Carver Parkway or 11 up in the Chan area, Shakopee, but 101 and 212 are going to be the key commuter routes that will be detoured. And then you can see here, we do have these yellow dotted lines that will be key routes for people still looking to get into downtown, which will also be signed because obviously we want people to still come and visit the downtown area during this construction. And there will be a lot of business signage installed as well at this time. See, we talked through that. Any questions on 41 construction? I know it's a lot to take in.
Maybe I jump in here. So Nicole talked about, this is in regards to 41. So I think that the staging plan that was shared earlier this year, I think back in January, February, showed 41 being completely closed, including the bridge for that whole kind of 6-7 month span. We've heard from some businesses, especially businesses that rely on that, that drive-by traffic, the concerns with having the bridge closed that long. And some of the initial thoughts about having the bridge closed for the entire time was, being able to get this project done in one construction season versus 2. That was one of the big drivers, but that's really kind of prompted us to, from hearing from folks that rely on that drive-by traffic, especially from the south, to let's take another look at what this staging plan might look like. Can we keep the bridge open to a certain point in time? The bridge has to close at some point in time because the roadway has to meet with the bridge and there is improvements that have to be done. So the bridge has to be closed at a certain period of time, but is there a way that we can keep it closed or keep it open to First Street and then be able to then route traffic on Pine and Walnut potentially. That doesn't mean we want the truck traffic necessarily. I don't think we want a bunch of semis and dump trucks full of stuff ruining our downtown city streets, which were just redone not that long ago. But so we're looking at what that might look like, and knowing that we are still a year out from that. I don't want to say that it's only, it is a year out, and I understand wanting to know sooner rather than later. That's why we're working on it now. And I think within the next few weeks, we'll know more about the pros and the cons. And I think what we'll be able to bring back is kind of that, here are the pros and cons of keeping the bridge closed during this entire time. And here are the pros and cons of opening it. Does that mean we have to take some on-street parking away? What does that, what other pros and cons might there be? And so we'll know more in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be communicating that with the council and with businesses as well. I just wanted to bring it up today to let people know that we have gone back. We have heard businesses that are concerned about this, and we are exploring this possibility again.
Yep. Yeah, and when we brought this to this business group earlier, and I think it was January, we got that initial feedback as well and did some research. And it is tricky to open to First, but we do want to do our due diligence, if you will, and really look into what could be done to patrol so that the semis can't come downtown, because that really is a driving factor, is all that truck traffic, because we just can't simply handle, the streets can't handle it. So like Elise said, we are going to be looking into it more. So we'll communicate that as soon as we know more information. But as of now, this is the plan, and we'll report back once we know more.
I guess like to reinforce from the perspective of the business community, it's an existential question for more than just a couple businesses. So do your best.
Yeah, we will. Exactly. Yep.
And I would say if businesses that are on this or listening to the recording have, specific feedback, certainly, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So that we understand.
That's all I had. I know it's a lot to take in. I guess one last thing I would mind. So at the bottom here, Jen alluded to this earlier at the beginning of the meeting, but communication is going to be key throughout this process. And if you're not already subscribed to our email updates or bookmarked our website, please do so, because once construction begins, it's really going to set everything in motion with our weekly updates. I'm available to help create maps for your business if you need. I can share these maps that you can share out with your customers. So we really want to make sure that you all have the tools to provide to your customers or employees or delivery trucks, whatever it may be, so that everyone's in the know and isn't taken by surprise. So I sign up for those email updates. And then we also have a Facebook page and obviously the project website, like I mentioned, and we are here to help throughout the process. And we want to make sure you have the information you need. So make sure you keep that website bookmarked. I think it's downtown Highway 41.
I think that's,
It's also on, it's linked on the website too.
I think the website is probably your best first stop, because everything is there. You can sign up for the email updates, and then you can link out to some of the other pieces.
And throughout construction, I do something like called a progress thermometer. So I have, when you start at 0%, and then each email update, it gets closer and closer. Because I think a key thing is, how long is this going to go on? So keep your eye on that too. And I'll be sharing that out. And maybe it's something that you can share with your customers too. But those email updates are going to be important, just so you know what's happening and if there's any traffic changes occurring.
I think the comment that you made about creating signage is really key. Like, this doesn't rest with you as a business owner to be the sole person whipping up signage. Like, we'll support it, whether it's detour information or whatever you think will best communicate to your customers. And that's in-store signage and social as well. You can certainly take anything that we share, that the city shares, that the Bolton and Mink team shares, and also use it on social. But if you need something specific, like for your pop-ups and monthly events, like, that's something that we can support.
Okay. That's all I had, just for a general overview. I know we're going to talk more about, business tactics and what the CDBA is doing to help support as well. So I can turn that over to that, unless there's any questions about the staging or timeline.
I'll just add quickly, like Nicole mentioned, we're outbidding the project right now. Once we have a contractor on board, those timelines will start to get really defined at that point in time, based upon what that contractor is doing and how they plan to work the project. So once they come on, we'll start to have those details.
One question, the parking that you're doing this year.
Yes.
So what happens, I'm assuming that's that little parking lot behind like Lynn. So all the people that park there from the apartments, what does that do to my street parking, which is already horrendous?
So it won't touch that apartment parking. It'll touch the parking that's kind of between Von Hansen's and La Hermosa. that area back there. So the apartment parking, they won't.
They park there.
Yeah, and so my understanding is that there's 3 parking lots that'll be constructed throughout the summer, and they're only gonna do like one at a time so that they can direct traffic, direct parking to some of those other.
Yep. So like Elise said, once we have the contractor on board, we'll know more specific timelines. And I'm anticipating creating a map like this parking lot's under construction. Here are alternate parking areas during this time. So we're communicating that out to folks. So, and like you said, it will be one at a time.
To the extent that you can do it, direct people away from, the Second Street businesses, because
'Cause
that
already-
is a mess already.
It's already
Yeah.
such,
Yeah.
I don't know where those people are.
Yeah.
If I knew, it would be interesting because,
Yeah.
I mean, on days I'm open, my customers are parking 2 blocks away
Yeah.
and walking in because there is absolutely no parking out front of my,
I think
My
that
store.
might be, I know we've talked about it before and we've never really come to like, what is the right answer? But I think that's something before this happens, particularly on Second Street, that we need to figure out, like, how do we keep those spaces in front of the businesses for the business? So that you're at least guaranteed.
yeah, if we could even get, like I'm only open a couple times a month. I used to put a sign out, which I definitely got in trouble for. And I understood that. But even if we could be provided, like Dunn Brothers could be provided with 2 parking spots during their open hours, and even something like that would,
Have we experimented with limited hours parking?
well, they
on that
used to
stretch?
have that, but
Yeah.
it was never monitored.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Parking or something like that.
Well, but even 2-hour parking or something,
Yeah.
for most of the businesses. that
And
way,
then, I mean, we did
get those other
have,
people out of there.
we did have a meeting with the city and it helped for a while.
Yeah.
But it's all back again.
Let me explore that some more with our engineering staff and appropriate folks and kind of look at it, because it sounds like it's kind of residents who are parking from their
Yes.
perspective.
And it's gonna get worse during this.
But
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm worried
That's-
about.
and that's some of, I think it ties in well as we're looking at this overall, rerouting and that sort of thing, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Why don't we, because I think the man of the hour should go next, and I'll kind of wrap us up with what we're going to do to support from a communications and kind of engagement perspective. But I think what Lee has to share is probably a lot more impactful than my ice cream pop-ups.
Well, I don't know that that's true. But let me just take 3 to 5 minutes and just talk about who I am, what Next Stage is, why I'm here talking to you. And then I'll share my thoughts, my insights, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm by no means an expert on road construction, but I've been working with small businesses and entrepreneurs and communities for about 20 years. And I work across the metro area. So we run into projects like this all the time and the impacts it does have on business communities. Next Stage is a nonprofit organization. We partner with the Carver County CDA. I've been partnering here in Carver County for about 10 years now, working with businesses all over the county. And really what we do is 2 things primarily. We do direct one-on-one consulting with businesses and entrepreneurs, people who are thinking of starting a business, to businesses that have been operating for years, that are maybe at a point where they're looking to expand or facing some challenges and are looking for an outside voice, looking for a third party, someone to kind of come in, sit down, talk through the issues, figure out where you're at, figure out where you're trying to get to, and then rack my brain to see if I can help you come up with solutions or connections to resources or assets or experience. As I said, I've been doing this for about 20 years. I don't have all the answers, but I'm pretty good at making it up as I go along. So it works sometimes. The other thing that we do, we are also a financing organization. The consulting services we provide are free of charge to the business. There's no pre-qualification to access those services. There's no limit on the services. Basically, if you want to talk to me, you need my help, you want to talk about your business, I'm here to provide that. And there's no charge for that. The county covers that cost. not required for our program, but as an additional tool. We also are a lending organization. We have access to some state lending programs. We have some of our own internal lending assets, and we have a lot of partnerships with other lending organizations and the banks in the community. If financing is a component of what the businesses we're working with or the entrepreneurs we're working with need, we're pretty good at helping you put the package together, find the best source for it, and if necessary, put direct dollars into the deal to kind of get it done. So that's next stage. That's my role here. That's what I do. In terms of road construction, boy, this has got to be like, it's like you just got knocked down repeatedly for the last 2 years. You're just pulling yourself off the canvas, and here we go again, right? That's good news and bad news, I guess. It's mostly bad news, you know that, but as they're saying, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it should be better when it's done. There should at least be a positive outcome for the additional pain we're going to have to go through here. I think that the experience of the last 2 years, what we faced in 2020 with the shutdowns, if nothing else, I think at least maybe it's given businesses, this isn't your first rodeo now. You've seen what business interruption looks like. You've seen what impact that has across your supply chain. You see what it does with your employees. You see what it does in terms of managing your cash flow, trying to make your landlord happy, all of those issues. The good news for a project like this is it's defined and it's finite. You know where the end point is. And even if 2 years seems like a really long time, it is a long time, but at least you're not shut down for the whole 2 years, but you know what I'm saying? You know where the end point is. So at least you have something to communicate. You have a goal you're working towards. It's not kind of up in the air. When will this ever end? The downside is, of course, that some of those resources that were there the last time around, the PPP, the CARES Act, some of those grants, those kinds of resources are not going to be available to you. And you know that your competitors, be they in Shakopee or Chanhassen, they're not shut down. So there's pros and cons. Let me just say as I'm really rolling out the positive, message here this morning and laying down all the good news. Here's the thing about road construction projects. The killer isn't the construction itself. It hurts. There's a pain period that you're going to get pinched during this construction. But what the studies, the national averages is, this isn't the first road construction that's ever happened in this country. And the reviews after the fact on the businesses and the impacts of those businesses is, businesses may see decreases in their business during the time of construction. And those, for some business types in particular, those impacts can be pretty significant. If you're really relying on walk-in traffic, you're a retail type business, that can have a pretty major impact. The killer isn't that time frame, because again, it's finite and you can plan for that. The killer is you lose 30%, 40% of your business during construction. What you see after the fact is businesses often don't get that back. Humans are creatures of habit. We get into patterns. We have our place that we always stop on our way to work, or we stop on our way home from work, or that we go to on Tuesday nights or whatever. You have regular customers, and that's great. That works for us as business owners, that people are creatures of habit and they get in the habit of coming to our business and doing that every week or every day or whatever. The challenge during projects like this is it forces people to try something new, to develop new habits. So 7 months goes by and now they're in a new routine of going to a new place every morning or going to a new place every Tuesday night. So that's really the killer. And that's when you think about planning for how to address this. Yes, there are things to do and there are things to think about in terms of how do we manage our staff? How do we keep the employees that we have happy without burying ourselves in payroll costs during that time frame? There are things you need to do in terms of what do we have to do for our inventory levels or cash flow management. Those are all real issues. They're issues you should be thinking about ahead of time and planning through. And again, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm happy to sit down and talk that through with you. But really the thing you have to be thinking about is, what are we going to do to keep front of mind with our customers during this period of time, and what are we going to do to make sure that they come back so we can reestablish and rebuild those patterns when the construction is over? To that end, I think it's really important to communicate with your customers during the construction. I think it's great what the community is doing, what the city is doing, what your partners, your chambers are going to do in terms of broadly communicating with the public during the project, giving updates, letting people know. Uncertainty is a killer. If people even are trying to get to you, your customers will make some amount of effort for some period of time. They'll run out of patience quickly, though. If the first time they try to come to you, they get lost, they get confused, they can't figure out where to go, can't figure out where to park. So those things do matter. But the personal communications from your business is critical. One of the reasons that you have regular customers is because they like you. They like you as entrepreneurs. They like your staff. They like your stories. They get to know you. I've been a small business owner myself. I've stood behind a counter at a coffee shop every morning for 6 years and saw the same 150 people every single morning for 6 years. And if I'd take a day off, my business would dip 20%. Not because I'm such a delightful person, but just because people are used to seeing me and you have that individual connection. So I think it's important when you think about communicating during this process. It's very important to communicate information. It's important to communicate, hey, this week we're entering this phase of the project. Now the parking is here, or here's a tip to get to us. If you go down this street and park here, you can get to us through this alley or whatever. Those kinds of direct tips to your customers are really, really valuable. If people feel like, oh, that doesn't sound like that bad, they'll make more of the effort to come to you. But I would also say it's worth, don't overdo it, don't bury people in it, but it's worth occasionally throwing in, not everything has to be, we're still in construction, drive this way. Sometimes it's good to share with your customers and social media. Give some human interest stories. Hey, we're here working today. You know, feature your staff, feature yourselves, feature the people that your customers know, remind them of that connection, make sure they remember you. It's important if you're not doing so. This is the reason you talk about these things a year in advance. All of what I'm talking about here only works if you have a way to communicate with your customers. So it's really important, if you're not doing it already, to start to build your social media presence. Whether you're super, super old school and it's just a matter of getting a mailing list or an email list together, or, you know, Facebook or Twitter or whatever you're doing. If you're not doing anything, we seriously need to talk, but whatever you are doing, really encourage your customers. Think about what you can do in the next months and over the course of the next year. Offer discounts or specials or promotions or whatever that make sure you're getting that contact information. Hey, give us a like and get entered in a drawing for a giveaway, something like that. Anything to do to start to build those connections with your customers so that you have the opportunity to make that communication and that regular pitch to them once these things start. What else can I say? So the other thing I would say is, and I want to give you some time for questions here. I could talk, I'll just keep talking, trust me. The other thing I would say is look at, so we talked a little bit about there's some things you need to do on the front end for planning wise. Again, you've all been through this in the last couple of years, what the challenges of a shutdown or diminished business looks like. You need to think about those things. But I would also say during that time, because you know it's finite, you know it's defined, you know, if it's going to be 7 months, what does that look like? What does that look like in terms of what can you do to reimagine or look at a replacement way to work with your customers during that period of time? Again, you probably have already had to think about or do some of these things in the last 2 years, but if you don't currently offer delivery, is it worthwhile for that short period of time to look at offering delivery? If you're not taking online orders, can you offer online orders? Can you arrange for an alternate pickup site for customers? Can you partner with another businesses in the downtown area where it's like, hey, for these 2 months, my sidewalk's going to be closed. Can my customers pick up at your shop and we'll reciprocate when your turn comes, you know, those kinds of things. Really think about other ways that you can engage with your customers. For what it's worth, I did write to Deed. I did request some grant funds from Deed late last year, specifically around this issue. I won't go into a huge amount of background on it, but the legislature last year approved some additional funding to support small businesses during the recovery effort. And they asked for proposals from organizations like mine to say, what are you seeing? What do businesses need? How do we help with the recovery? And I said, well, what I'm seeing is that businesses that were able to embrace and adopt technology changes did relatively well coming out of the pandemic. Businesses that are maybe a little more set in their old school bricks and mortar, put an open sign in the window and unlock the door, didn't. And so I had asked Deed for a little bit of funding to help us for businesses that are looking at how do we modernize, how do we adopt online job sharing, how do we adopt e-commerce or social media improvements, how do we kind of reimagine our business in a way that we can do business that isn't quite as traditional bricks and mortar walk up. I was awarded a small amount of money, so I don't have millions of dollars, but I do have a little bit of money that, as we're talking about these things, if what you think your business needs is, yeah, you know what, he's right, I really do need to update my website. I do need to look at how to allow my customers to do online ordering, or I need whatever it is. I need to install a drive-in window on this. I don't know what it is. But if you're thinking about that there's something you need to do that allows you to kind of modernize and update what your business does, and you're trying to figure out how to pay for it, come talk to me. I might have a little bit of money I can help you out with it. Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up for a second for questions, is use this as an opportunity. Use this as an opportunity to make changes. As I said, I've been an entrepreneur myself. I've owned businesses before. I've worked with thousands of businesses over the last 20 years. One of the really fascinating things I see about myself and entrepreneurs in general and business owners in general is I can sit down with any business owner and say, what do you think you should change about your business? Or what do you think you do wrong in your business? And everyone who runs a business knows that they do something wrong. I really need to change my prices, or I don't know why I order from this vendor. The product's terrible every time, or whatever it is. And then the follow-up question then, well, why don't you change it? And I am amazed by, and I've said this myself, well, yeah, but I don't know how my customers will react. They're used to that. My customers are used to getting this. My customers are used to paying this, or my customers are used to us doing this way. And I'm afraid that if I change, I'll get a negative reaction to that. So all I'll say here is the world is changing anyway. We're in a period of crazy upheaval and change, whether we like it or not. And that's only going to get exacerbated when the road is closed. You have to get your customers to change and react to you differently anyway. If everything's up in the air anyway, it seems like a really good time to think about, I've always thought we should add this component to our business, or I always thought we should refocus or change to that. These are good times to think about that and consider that. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but that's my 2 cents. That's my advice.
Can you talk for a second about how a business that wanted to engage your services would go about doing that? What's the process?
Shoot me an email, give me a call, and we'll set up an appointment. I'm available. So interesting, nice segue. So I used to think that this work the work I do pretty much had to be done face to face. We sit down and we talk to people about their business, and we're consulting, and it's all about this personal relationship. This has to be done face to face. So while my office is in Bloomington, I actually come every Wednesday. I'm at the CDA here in Chaska. I have office hours and I can meet there. Otherwise, a lot of Wednesdays I go out. I'll get a call from a business, and I'd love to go meet people at their business because it really helps me see and understand what they're doing. I'm happy to sit down with you at the CDA and talk. I'm happy to come over to your business and talk to you. But what I've learned over the last 2 years is, for all of my insistence, this had to be done face to face. I actually really like meeting with clients on Skype or on Zoom, and I found clients really like that too. I think, again, we're all learning new things and changing. So that's the world's longest answer to, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm here in county on Wednesdays. I'm happy to, everything's done by appointment, but I've got plenty of availability. I'm happy to sit down face to face at your business or at the CDA. Otherwise, if you have time, we'll just schedule something on Zoom. We'll jump on any other day of the week. I'm happy to connect. My email is Lee, Lee, at nextstagemn.org. I've got some cards here for the people in the room. Sorry, those of you meeting online, I can't help you out with that. But there's a link to my website and a description of my services on the Carver County CDA website as well.
Can you put all that contact info in the distribution that comes out?
Yes, so I'm dropping stuff in the chat right now if you want to grab it, but then I will send a follow-up email that has this recording, Lee's contact information, the website, the Facebook, all of the stuff that's in chat as well.
And I'll just, I said my last thing and then now I'm going to say something else. Like I said, I could just keep talking. I do just want to add for the businesses in the room, the businesses on Zoom. I'm happy to talk about road construction, but I'm really happy to talk about any other business issues or concerns or ideas that you have as well. Like I said, I've been working here for about 10 years. I anticipate I'll be working here for 10 more years. This is a big deal and it's probably front of mind for all of you right now, but any way I can help out with your businesses, please give me a call.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question,
Yes.
and I don't know if anyone in this room can answer it. Sometimes when I'm driving somewhere and I put it in the GPS, it knows. It knows a road is closed. It reroutes me automatically. How is that gonna, is that gonna happen like on a daily basis or who does that? Whose job is it? And isn't that gonna happen?
Great question. So
Okay.
it's weird the knowledge you acquire in this industry. So there's a program called Waze, which you probably know. It feeds to Google Maps, and we actually work with cities and counties to set up an account so that they can report road closures. Would businesses find that helpful or not helpful? Helpful.
Yeah, more information is always good.
Yeah,
It's kind of a rule of
yeah.
thumb, although, yeah.
I would think depending upon the detour route,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that, without having to.
Don't send people to Chaska. We send them.
I mean, I think that's my biggest concern, your designated detour route, right?
Yep.
And then that takes them away from downtown where.
So I
But
think the road, if we can report the road closure, but they put in a business as their point, like a downtown business, it will just avoid 41.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's been a useful tool. I'm actually doing a project by Canterbury Park right now, and we're using that right now. So we can work with the city to get that set up. And I think that would be good, since so many people just use their phone to get places anyway. It's like, you may as well have it in there so that they know, oh, it's taking me on 101 if they're coming from Shakopee or something, then they won't be surprised.
Any other questions? Zoomers or anyone in the room? All right, well then we'll roll into the CDBA's efforts in all of this. We met as a group, the city, Bolton and Mink, and the CDBA, and created our campaign calendar for the next 2 years so that we could kind of map out the communications and the timing of events and social. So if anybody has a direct interest in seeing that, we can certainly share the link with you, but it's really our roadmap, our Google Maps, for ensuring that we're supporting the businesses in any way that we can. A lot of this year is kind of testing. We know that Dan is impacted. We know that Roxy is impacted. We've got a smaller area to really figure out what works and what do people engage with. So we're going to try a lot of pop-up events. That's where the ice cream comes in. Little things that we can give a business for a day and create an event around it to just draw people downtown, to do a couple things. A, to bring traffic in, certainly, but B, to get people down here and communicate with them that it is accessible and it is walkable, and that it's easier than it probably sounds when they see some of the communication. We'll also work to really ensure that the communication is getting out there. So at all of our standard events like River City Days and Fire and Ice Bondsfield, anywhere that the city has a table or that Bolton and Mink has a table and is communicating, we're going to supply. Right now, we're looking at bandanas and plastic bracelets that has the QR code to the website on it, that has the logo to the project on it, so that there's fun around this, as not fun as it is, and B, we continue to get information out to the community. We did create a logo for the project for the next 2 years so that we can brand everything that we're doing that way. We borrowed an idea that Kevin Wright from the communications department here was used in his hometown. So we have a mascot for the project that will pop up at businesses, at events, so that we can, again, just create some fun with it, and keep people in the know. So they, again, aren't surprised when they drive down or when they come up from Shakopee and the bridge is closed. As much of that as we can prevent happening. Some of the other things, and we are always open to feedback. A lot of what we've done the last year is look at how other cities have done this. Prior Lake did a lot of pop-up events. They built events specifically around road construction. Hutchinson tackled it with communications. They had communication binders. We don't necessarily need a binder, I don't think, because the website really is everything that you need to know. So we're taking little bits and pieces from what we've learned from other situations like ours and built it into this strategy. We will meet again in the fall as we come out of 61 and really start to prep for 41. And then part of that meeting will be, if you haven't attended the open houses to tour the city facilities, there is another one tomorrow. Part of that meeting will be discussing the future of that, because that has such a big impact to downtown as well. You know, people coming down to the library, people coming down to the license center and the government center. I'll get that date on the calendar so that we have that as kind of a wrap up on 61 and then the prequel. We are doing, we started this last year, but we'll continue to do it. Dan and Roxy are the next two, but we're building short 1 to 2 minute features on our businesses that'll live in our social media, but that the businesses can use as well. And they're really about who are you and what is your business and why are you downtown? So we're gonna target those two this year. Anybody else who has an interest in doing that can reach out and we'll add you to the short list. Orange Ball is creating them. And then they're absolutely something that you as a business can use during this time frame as well. Let's see, we talked already about social media images, maps, things that Bolton and Mink can provide, signage. Where else? We talked about events. And then just a lot of paid social media. So what we'll continue to do, and we've tried to do in the past, but haven't really found the best way to do it, is to know beforehand. So Linda, you're a great example of all of your dates for the year, so that we can then boost those events on social media. When we share an event, we can't pay to boost it. So if we know, we can create something and then pay to boost that in advance. So what I'll be doing is sharing out the event calendar that we've used the last couple of years, so that you can drop in your events, wine tastings, the weekends that you're open, you know, like Carver Junk and their DIY things that they do. You can tell I don't DIY anything. But all of those types of things, we want to be able to push out there and help, again, people find you and find out what's going on. Same things with ladies' nights. We're going to do those again this year and we'll do them next year. And maybe we find that those types of events, as we test them this year, because they're such a focal point, maybe we do more of them. Maybe there's a guys' night. I don't know. Maybe. Do you guys, like, you get together and do things? But that's really what we're here for. We don't have to manage the communication as much because Bolton and Mink is going to do the heavy lifting there, but we're here to support you all. So if you want pop-up events, if you want us to fund something that you're doing, you just let us know and we'll take on some of that for you. Dan, anything you want to add? So my follow-up email will have the recording. I'll share the campaign calendar and then I'll share the event calendar, which I'll probably just build into this. So there's one spreadsheet instead of multiple Google Sheets, so that we can start to curate some of that. And I know we're really focused on this year, but if you do have dates, I'll build both a 2022 and a 2023 so that you can drop them in there. Any other questions that came up?
Are there any tools that people here today would find useful that you have in mind that we can help you with? Seems like ice cream is the solution.
Right?
Ice cream is it. I mean,
It's so good.
I am going to look for more things like that. I stumbled upon it because I have my son's graduating high school and I was like, that's an easy
Hmm?
way to do that. You know, I know we've done the North Star donut truck before in front of Carver Junk for ladies' night. So there might be some things like that where we.
Outfit that comes out with a giant pizza oven makes you a 6-foot pizza. That might
Oh,
be-
yes.
That'd be a cool thing.
That would be cool.
Be a
The
cool
thing
thing.
is, there's a pretty great cheesecake is a
Yep.
local
Yeah.
food truck,
Yeah.
you know, and get him out. And
mhm.
When you get one of the food trucks like at your business, though, I've always had this problem because of the parking problem. What would I do? How do I,
yeah,
I mean, there's no parking to begin with.
for you almost have to close the road there to
Yeah,
get people
I
in.
mean,
But,
Are there farmers markets downtown?
yes.
Closing the road as a solution to road construction would be an innovative approach.
There
you go.
I think one of the things that we won't have access to this summer, but next summer, when we have those parking lots in that Paseo, like that is a place that we're, I think, continually
That's the intent of
idea.
those.
Yeah.
So
How do
you'll
we
bring them-
activate those
yeah.
spaces? So, you know, we park them there and then we've got seating and lights and it, like it's an event in itself.
Have
at
no
that point.
concerts.
Yeah, music. And so I think there's a lot. Those are probably my favorite part of the sidewalks get bigger on 41, right? So 41 becomes more walkable and the traffic should be calmer.
Mhm.
But we also create these paseos that, I mean, if you don't want to walk on 41, that there is this way to traverse downtown. And so then it's just up to us to activate these areas and figure out fun things to do with them. The design pieces, I know they were hard to see in here, are like there's art built into them, there's nature built into them. If I could spend all day talking about my love of the paseos.
Yes.
Pizza.
But if you all, after this meeting, think of something like, wow, this event would be cool, or, you know, this social media thing, let us know, because we're still, like we were saying, building out this plan. And we want your feedback so that we're doing things that are effective for you all.
And certainly the idea of the pop-ups isn't for you to take on the cost, like that's what we're here to support. You just
Mhm.
have to support manning whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's our goal, is to drive people to you. Look at that, and it's 9 o'clock. It's like we planned this, which we totally did. Yeah. All right, Zoomers, I will send a follow-up email. Before I disconnect you all, any questions anyone had? That is always a good thing. I always say it's a good thing unless you have toddlers and they have a Sharpie and they're alone in their bedroom. That doesn't end so well. All right, thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and hang you up.